Well, hello, welcome back to my channel. Now hopefully today's video is going to be a bit shorter than last video. Well, it will be. We've covered the basics, so we don't need to go over that. Well, I say we covered the basics. I look back at that last video and there's a lot of bits there where I wasn't terribly clear. Well, sometimes I don't know why I put some of those videos on there. Some of them weren't actually doing what I was saying that I was doing on the audio, but I'll try to get a bit better as we go along. But yeah, on to this sector. We're on sector 2 now. Now sector 2 is a very easy sector. It's probably the easiest sector on the entire lap, if I'm totally honest. Now it's pretty much flat out from where we left it at Union Mills all the way until you get to Greba, which is right at the very end, where you have to slow down a little bit and then over the finish line. Now the problem that I've had with this sector is when you do sectors, if you noticed on the last video I rolled all the way back to Greba Bridge. I rolled all the way back to Governor's Dip to take my hot lap, and it's because they're a little bit stingy with the flying laps that they give you, the flying starts. So I like to give myself that extra bit and roll back. And the problem that you have with sector 2 and the Union Mills section is that it's uphill, so you can't roll back like you do from the start finish line. So you have to push it, you have to turn the bike round and force it to do things that the game doesn't want you to do, which is drive backwards along the track, which is a shame because I'd love to try the track backwards. But yeah, so it's a bit laborious having to do this sector. And then coupled with that, this sector is definitely bugged out. Now, I know a lot of people will say that it's bugging out, this isn't my real time, but this really isn't my real time. As you can see on the screen here, this says 6,000th other in the world. Yeah, and it's just not true. Now, I'll show you what I mean. When I've tried everything with this, I've been through that sector numerous times, way faster than that. I'm 10 seconds quicker than that. And yeah, and it just doesn't seem to want to update it for me, so it was kind of off-putting. It's kind of deflating, and I didn't really want to sit there persevering, turning the bike around, taking ages for that flying start, just for it not to record my time. So I did try to record a reasonable time, and I got a half decent one in there, but there's not really a great deal you can make up on this one. As I said, it's completely flat out all the way, and then a little bit at the end where you have to slow down and ease the throttle. But then yeah, let's go through it. So from the start. Okay, so sector 2. Now it's only a minute long, so it's a really short one. And to be honest with you, the first part of sector 2 is actually sector 1. Now what I mean by that is if you don't get fast out of Union Mills, then you're losing speed for pretty much almost half this sector, I'd say, until you get up to top speed, which is just after Balagary. Now, you want to be coming out of Union nice and hard, so that you're coming up this straight. Now, when you come up here, there is a name for this corner. It's Glenlough or something like that. Now, then you've got Balagary. Now, as I said in the steering tutorial, Balagary, there's a technique to this one. I couldn't believe it when I found out that this one was flat out, but it is flat out. Don't let off at all for it. Now, as you're coming up to Balagary, you hit this hill here, and it comes into the light. If you do it in the morning, you come into this light patch here. Now, as I said, you'd start tilting the bike over, try and get it over, tapping it over, so you've already got a head start when you see that apex. Now, as soon as you see that apex, you can then tuck it in, cutting in nice. You can get right over the curb. Now with this corner, it's unforgiving when you first start playing with it, but it is quite forgiving. If you catch the curb, it might fly you out to the side, but if you're a little bit late with it, you come out quite wide, and it's still quite forgiving. You might lose a bit of traction in the back wheel, which means you lose a bit of speed as you come down this hill. But otherwise, when you get used to this corner, just persevere with it, and you will get used to it. It's all about motor memory of knowing when to turn in, and yeah, and it does get easier. And as I said, then on down this flat out bit again. And then this corner at the end, it was another one that was a real surprise for me that it was flat out. It was really nice when I found out that, and it was listening to McGuinness on telly in real life. He said it was flat out. Sorry, Peter Hickman in real life, and he said it was flat out, and I thought I'd give it a try. and as it turned out it was. This was in the days when I wasn't very quick at all. But yeah, flat out round this one, just be careful because there's a bit of a very low curb. It kinks to the right again afterwards, and if you're not careful, you'll catch that curb and you'll probably not come off, but you'll lose a hell of a lot of time for it. You should be going flat out through here, and it creeps down. I think as you're coming up to Crosby, about 199, I think you are. Right, so yeah, then on to Crosby. Now Crosby's all flat out, as I said. We're still in the flat out 1 minute of flat out throttle. Yeah, and then we come over the jump. You don't really matter if you keep it. As I said before, I put the wheelie on so it'll wheelie. And even on the super bikes, you're going so fast that it doesn't really matter keeping your weight forward because it hasn't got the throttle to pick the front up. I think it probably is. You probably save yourself a few microseconds by keeping the front wheel down, and if you do want to do that, then as I said on the last tutorial, try and do it before you reach it, sort of half a second before you reach the crest. Otherwise you'll be in the process of moving over the handlebars as opposed to over the handlebars. Then the Crosby kink. Now this Crosby kink is flat out. I usually take the Crosby jump on the right so that I am sort of poised, so I don't need to do too much turning through the Crosby kink. And yeah, cutting it out to first onto the hedge, then onto the furthest right hand quarter curb, and then back over to the left hand side for the Grieber section. Now when you get into Grieber, as you're coming in, you want to be flat out, and then you stop being flat out once you're over this jump. Now I find it high side sometimes, if you let off before that jump, it's always better to get over that little jump, and as soon as you're over that jump, still maintain a little bit of throttle and pop it into fifth, sort of medium revs. Then as you come to the apex, you let off a little bit on fifth, and then once you see the apex, you bang it into fourth, flip it back over, and then try and hug the curb out of there and get on the power as early as possible. Do be careful on that exit corner. It is a sod. It is very easy to either catch the curb on the inside or go wide. It's got a bit of negative camber there, and it's just a very difficult change of direction, that one. You need to change very early and get it over and find your line, and then it's flat out there and over the line. And now what we'll do now is we'll go and have a look at the time I recorded earlier. As I said, I didn't really go for the fastest I could possibly do. I just thought I'd put in a reasonable example. I couldn't be bothered going back every time. As you can see right now, I'm doing what I said now. Yeah, and it's really exhausting having to do that. Really, all you want to do is race, and you have to go back all the time. Hopefully they see these sort of videos, and when they bring up the next one, they're a bit more generous with the amount of run up they give you. But yeah, so yeah, I only put in a couple of attempts on this just to get a reasonable go on it. But yeah, have a look, see what you think. Yeah, and there we have it. We have a 1 minute .9. And let's have a look. And yeah, still apparently 6,340th in the world. But as you can see, I'm 10 seconds faster than that. That is actually a bad time for me. I have had under 1 minute on that one. That is a second slower than I've had before, where I think I made up the time was probably a faster exit out of Union and a tighter line through the whole. I was quite slow through Greba then. But yeah, it was. It's a shame that it does that, because I do like to see myself in the. As you can see, them sort of boys up there. I'm in a 59. They're not a million miles ahead of me anyway. I'm 1 second behind the leaders there anyway. So you can roughly see what you can do. I think the important ones there. If you can take Balagueri flat out, followed by the next one flat out. If you can just keep it pinned for that whole minute, then you're going to be in the top 100 sort of thing. Before I go, I thought I'd share a little something that happened recently on the game, a bit of a tragedy. I say a tragedy. I beat my best time. I'm finally on the top 100 leaderboard. I got a 16:02. I am 84th in the world, I believe, when I'm 86th on the superbikes. So I'm now better on the super sports than I am the superbikes. But sadly, when I passed the finish line in triumph, I pressed the share button, which is the record button that anyone doesn't know, on the PlayStation controller a little too triumphantly, and held it for that little bit too long, which means that it activates the instant record as opposed to the record the last 30 minutes of gameplay. So I didn't manage to record it, and as you can imagine, I was pulling my hair out over it. I was super pissed off. But then, I hit back with a vengeance, and I was determined to get a lap. I didn't get a lap, but I did get one run that I thought was particularly spicy. It didn't last for long, but while it lasted, it was really beautiful. So I'm just going to share that one with you. So I'm going to say goodbye and hope you enjoy the super spicy run from Grandstand to Glen Helen 2. Enjoy.